I'm Eric Rosales. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, laying down the line. President Donald Trump meets with the British Prime Minister. What the president had to say on the wars in Ukraine and Gaza. Trading places. The U.S. and European Union agree to terms on a trade deal. We'll break down the details. A cause to celebrate. 2 Jubilees in 1 week. We'll tell you all about it. And making the heart sing. We recap the first ever Catholic Music Awards, and one of the winners is a member of our EWTN family. These stories and much more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you so much for being with us on the feast of Pope St. Victor I and Blessed Stanley Rother. Our top story tonight, we begin with the Trump administration's ongoing efforts to end the wars in Ukraine and Gaza. President Donald Trump says he intends to shorten the 50-day deadline given to Russian President Vladimir Putin to reach a deal. He told reporters, quote, he's very disappointed in Putin. In addition, Trump expressed concern over the worsening humanitarian situation in Gaza. For the very latest, let's check in with White House correspondent Owen Jensen. Owen.
Eric, good evening to you. Earlier, President Donald Trump gave Russian President Vladimir Putin until early September to make a deal to end the fighting. Now it's been moved up to early August. Here's the explanation.
I'm going to make a new deadline of about 10 or 12 days from today. There's no reason in waiting. There's no reason in waiting. It's 50 days. I want to be generous, but we just don't see any progress being made.
In Scotland, while meeting with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, President Donald Trump also tells reporters that when it comes to conversations he's had with Russian President Vladimir Putin, too often the result has been this.
All I know is we'd have a good talk, and it seemed on, let's say, 3 occasions, it seemed that we were going to have a ceasefire and maybe peace, and you divide it up and you do whatever you have to do, that obviously to get to the end. And all of a sudden, missiles are flying into Kiev and other places. And I say, what's that all about?
As the war in Ukraine drags on and more funerals for soldiers are held, President Trump wants peace efforts to make progress by August 7th to August 9th. President Trump also spoke out about the war in Gaza. He says the U.S. will help make sure food gets to the Palestinians.
We can save a lot of people. I mean, some of those kids that's real starvation stuff. I see it. And you can't fake that. So we're going to be even more involved.
The British Prime Minister calls it a humanitarian catastrophe.
The situation on the ground in Gaza is absolutely intolerable, and I think that certainly speaking for the British public and myself, seeing those images of starving children in particular are revolting.
President Trump urging Israel to ensure food reaches people, noting that the U.S. and other nations are providing aid, but stressing that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu must manage its distribution. President Trump also blames Iran for meddling in the ceasefire negotiations.
Iran's been sending out bad signals, I'll tell you. For a country that just got wiped out, they've been sending very bad signals, very nasty signals, and they shouldn't be doing that.
About 20 living hostages remain in Gaza, and President Trump blames Hamas for stealing food and aid. And the president also mentioned the U.S. plans to open food centers in Gaza. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you so much, Owen. And just how bad is the situation? Take a look at this. Dozens of Palestinians in Gaza rushed towards boxes of humanitarian aid packages that were dropped from members of the Jordanian Air Force over the weekend. Jordan and the United Arab Emirates carried out the airdrops, each carrying about 25 tons of food and basic necessities. 3 airdrops took place in several locations in the Gaza Strip. The deepening humanitarian crisis has provoked U.S. lawmakers to call for action, but they're divided about how to do it. Democrats accuse the Trump administration of turning a blind eye to the suffering of the thousands of people, while Republicans blame Hamas for causing hundreds of civilians and children to starve to death.
Israel, since this war began, has supplied over 94,000 truckloads full of food. It's enough food to feed 2 million people for 2 years, trying to get that into Gaza. But Hamas has stolen the food.
The United Nations World Food Program says it has a 3-month supply of food to feed the 2 million civilians in Gaza, but adds about a quarter of the population is facing starvation. Democrats are pressing that point.
Aid needs to be continuous. It can't be just a one-time thing. They're going to drop some aid from airplanes, but we need to have a continuous supply of food into Gaza, or these children are going to starve to death.
The blockade of the aid coming in. You see now what is going on is that my constituents are calling me about Gaza, are calling me about the other issues that the president is not dealing with as he's off in Scotland promoting his golf courses.
Others agree. Catholic Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi posted on X, quote, "The humanitarian crisis and mass starvation in Gaza, particularly affecting children and infants, is a catastrophic moral emergency. The United States must urgently press for an immediate and sustained ceasefire, which ensures safe delivery of life-saving assistance to Palestinians." But Republican Senator Lindsey Graham says the situation could get worse before it gets better.
I think Israel's come to conclude that they can't achieve a goal of ending the war with Hamas that would be satisfactory to the safety of Israel, and if they're going to do in Gaza what we did in Tokyo and Berlin, take the place by force.
It's important to note that a number of Senate Democrats have even written to the Trump administration advocating for the president to pressure Israel to help the people of Gaza. Besides more humanitarian aid, lawmakers want to see a ceasefire and a comprehensive plan for Gaza's future. Well, for the second time this month, Christians in the Holy Land say they've been attacked by Israeli settlers. It happened in the village of Taibeh in the central part of the West Bank. It's the only entirely Christian Palestinian town in the region. Villagers there say that Israeli settlers torched 2 cars and left graffiti overnight. When residents confronted them, they ran away. Thankfully, no one was injured. It's the latest in a series of recent attacks on the village.
They attacked the church in the past. They attacked the cemetery. They attacked our livelihoods, our trees, our olive groves, and today they attacked our cars. After they were stealing them in the past, they started burning them.
Earlier this month, the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Cardinal Pizzaballa, visited the village. The Israeli military says it is currently investigating. In Africa, dozens of Christians are dead after an attack on a Catholic church in the Democratic Republic of Congo. An armed group linked to the Islamic State launched the attack in Komanda in the northern section of the country. The area is rich in minerals and controlled by several armed groups. The Allied Democratic Forces stormed the church, where they shot and killed the worshipers and then looted and set fires to nearby businesses. The Vatican Secretary of State, Cardinal Pier de Parolin, expressed concern over the attack, calling it a dangerous sign. He said this represents an additional problem in the region already suffering from many conflicts, and criticized the attackers as a force that represents Islamic Jihad. Thailand and Cambodia have agreed to an unconditional ceasefire to end deadly border clashes. Earlier today, the Malaysian Prime Minister made the announcement after mediating the peace talks between the two countries. The ceasefire comes into effect at midnight local time. Military commanders and officials from both countries are set to meet later to defuse tensions. The clashes began last Thursday after a landmine exploded, wounding several Thai soldiers. The violence has killed at least 35 people and displaced over 260,000 others. A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration's effort to defund Planned Parenthood. The judge says the abortion clinics nationwide need to continue to be reimbursed by Medicaid funding. The nation's largest abortion provider argued that they would be at risk of closing around 200 clinics if they were cut off from Medicaid funds. The defunding of Planned Parenthood for 1 year was included in the passage of President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill that was passed just weeks ago. President Trump says that the U.S. and European Union have come to terms on a sweeping trade agreement. The president announced the decision during a meeting with the European Commission president. The agreement comes after President Trump unveiled reciprocal tariffs back in April. The deal now imposes a 15% tariff on most European goods, including cars, computer chips, and pharmaceuticals. The deal also includes 0 tariffs for strategic goods such as aircraft parts and certain agricultural products. Additionally, EU companies are set to purchase from the United States some $750 billion worth of natural gas, oil, and nuclear fuel over 3 years. And joining us now to talk more about this is Richard Stern from the Heritage Foundation. Richard, great to see you again. And, first off, $1 million question, what am I going to get out of this? As consumers, we want to find out what can we expect from this deal?
Well, I thank you for having me on to talk about this. So I think the most important thing is it's opening up markets for U.S. producers to export abroad. And that, of course, means more money coming into the U.S., and that makes it easier for you to then buy stuff from other countries as well. It brings down prices. It means you have access to the best stuff. It also means that our manufacturers have access to the best and cheapest inputs from around the abroad. So at the end of the day, higher wages, more job opportunities, lower costs for consumers.
And how fast do you think we're going to see these prices drop?
Well, that's going to take some time. Whenever you change business arrangements, it takes time for new businesses to form, for people to figure out how to take advantage of what's going on in a positive way. But, at the same time, though, part of why the stock market's at record highs is optimism about deregulation and tax cuts here at home and expanded markets abroad.
And no doubt that this deal with the EU is going to affect other deals between the United States and other trading partners, right?
Oh, absolutely. So I think two of the big things here, of course, is that the EU has been trying to force, minimum taxes on businesses around the globe, mostly U.S. businesses, and taxes on digital services on things that the U.S. specializes in. And that would box the U.S. out of global affairs. It would bring China into more global affairs. So what Trump is negotiating here is something that will keep China at bay and put the U.S. more central to global affairs.
And that's the president's goal, right? To keep China at bay.
Absolutely.
All right. And what effects have we seen from the tariffs that Mr. Trump has imposed so far?
Well, to be fair, most of the burden of the tariffs so far have been felt by U.S. businesses, a little bit by U.S. consumers, but it always takes time for those burdens to trickle through to consumers. But I would stress this, though. The stated goal of the president on the tariffs has been to use them as a strategic tool to negotiate, not as a long-run device. So I think, we all know that if you leave tariffs around for forever, they eventually harm your own citizens and businesses. But if you use them strategically to deal with the things we've been seeing, then you can make great progress that allows for great prosperity for Americans, as well as dealing with some of these other issues like fentanyl across the borders in China. So, I'd say it's a short-term pain at the moment for long-term gain.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that these tariffs, they were against the United States for so many years and for so many administrations, correct?
Oh, absolutely. But, beyond that, it's, flooding fentanyl in and violating our intellectual property, stealing, the research from our corporations, producing knockoffs abroad. All of that is stuff Trump's been negotiating over.
Richard Stern from the Heritage Foundation, thank you so much for your insight.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Well, keep it right here on EWTN News Nightly. We have a lot more to come, including 2 Jubilees in 1 week. A look at what we can expect from the Jubilees of Youth and Digital Missionaries. Plus, it's a first of its kind, the Catholic Music Awards, and one of the winners was one of EWTN's very own. What she had to say about the big win. Welcome back. Well, today marks the beginning of 2 major Jubilee events in Rome. The first is dedicated to young people, and take a look. There are obvious signs of excitement. That's great to see. Around 500,000 young people are in Rome for the Jubilee of Youth. Today and tomorrow, they will be joined by the Jubilee of Digital Missionaries. The focus is on making the church accessible to everyone, especially young people, through social media and the internet. For more on this, let's turn to Jonathan Straight, President and CEO of Ascension Press. Jonathan, I'm really excited about this. I mean, you're able to reach Catholics around the world online. First of all, what do you expect from this Jubilee of Digital Missionaries and Catholic influencers?
Well, it's an exciting moment for the church. This is the first time that they've done something like this. And of course, as you know, the church exists to evangelize. So getting everybody together, I think they're expecting about 1,000 people from maybe 40 to 50 different countries, all who feel called to digital evangelization. getting them together to share best practices and just really spur the conversation and be influenced by each other. It's a really exciting moment.
And tell us how your company, Ascension Press, is involved.
So Ascension, we're known for the Bible in a Year podcast, among many other things. We've been doing this for about 25 years at this point. So we're very familiar with using the digital world to reach everyone. One of our contributors is there, Katie McGrady. She was actually on the show last week, and she's going to be sharing some social media with us that we're going to be posting on our channels. So some of those takeaways are already coming out, and so that's how we're involved.
And talk to us about some other ways that this digital media is able to reach young people. And it's not just Catholics, but also non-Catholics, correct?
It's everybody. So one of the things that makes it so important is that you want the digital evangelization so you can meet people where they are. And where they are is existing online. That's where they're doing their own searching. So if the church isn't there, then the church doesn't have a voice in all of that. So you really want to use this to reach people where they are in as personal of a means as you can.
And was this Jubilee for digital missionaries in Rome coordinated at the same time with the start of the Jubilee of Youth?
I'm not sure if it was originally intended to coincide,
right?
But at least seeing how it works out, it makes a lot of sense.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing out there. I mean, we're talking about digital missionary work. What are we going to see in the coming years? What are some things that people could expect?
So, when this started maybe 20 plus years ago with the advent of the internet, it was easy to start to bring things that were traditionally in print and put them online. You can make infinite copies, in effect, and have that all available and reach people that you never were able to reach. But 20 years later, it's switched, I'd say, probably to a more personalized kind of faith formation. So something where, it feels like somebody's speaking with me. The content is coming out on a daily, many times a day basis. And so you can really feel more connected with somebody. And so in the future, getting to bring like AI into the picture, starting to think about, well, how can that really help deliver the right message to the right person at the right time? It's really a lot to look forward to.
Well, Jonathan Straight, President and CEO of Ascension Press, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And be sure to stick with EWTN through the Jubilees this week. Starting tomorrow, we're going to have special programming and reports from Rome on the Jubilee of Youth. Our broadcast starts up tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern Time. It's an event that all Catholics of all ages would be interested in. Well, up next on EWTN News Nightly, Making the Heart Sing. We'll take you to the first ever Catholic Music Awards, and one of our EWTN's very own celebrates a big win. Plus, Pope Leo XIV gives a shout out to EWTN. During his weekly Angelus, Pope Leo XIV gave a shout out to EWTN. Take a listen.
I greet the EWTN Summer Academy.
Woohoo! EWTN's Summer Academy is meant to help young Catholic adults grow in their faith and deepen their knowledge of religious media and journalism. Pope Leo also reminded the faithful of the importance of the Our Father prayer. He says that through the prayer we celebrate being children of God and respond to this gift by loving one another like brothers and sisters. For the first time ever, Catholic musicians have their very own award show. The Catholic Music Awards were held in Rome over the weekend. It aims to promote, encourage, and recognize the talent of Catholic singers. And one of the winners is a member of the EWTN family. EWTN Vatican journalist Benedict Settigren has more.
So remember your people.
Bringing together artists and faithful to celebrate excellence in Catholic music. The first ever Catholic Music Awards were held near the Vatican. The winners, honored at a ceremony held on July 27th at the Auditorium Conciliazione, received their awards with great joy.
Never would I have thought 20 years ago that today we would be here near St. Peter's, awarded as the best Italian Catholic band. And this is something extraordinary, how the Lord can truly guide our lives, heal them, and lead us to where we are called to be, because each of us has a mission.
perché ognuno di noi ha una missione.
Nicknamed the Grammys of Catholic Music, the Catholic Music Awards were created to promote and encourage music and the service of faith. And the award has become a point of reference for artists and communities that express Christian values through music. Finalists were evaluated based on content, artistic value, and technical professionalism, with a final decision made by an international jury of more than 60 experts. One of the winners was EWTN Noticias' own Nathalie Paredes Lozano.
This is the first event of its kind held at a global level, and it's so important because it values, rewards, and above all highlights the music of so many Catholic musicians around the world who offer their voices, who offer the gifts the Lord has given us to praise Him, to praise God, our beloved Jesus. What could be better than valuing and supporting this kind of music, which sometimes is lacking?
Winners were chosen across 19 categories in 4 languages: Spanish, English, Italian, and Portuguese. Among the awardees was Italian opera singer Luciano La Monarca, who performed a song he composed in honor of St. Padre Pio. As a gesture of gratitude for his intercession in the birth of his son Sebastian.
When you sing expressing faith, the emotions you give is much more than anything else. You don't do this because you have been paid, you don't do this because you have been rewarded by some things. You do this because you feel a connection with God, with those who love. You feel that faith to expand. So this is the best music that everybody will ever experience.
In Rome, Benedict Cedegrian, EWTN News Nightly.
And great job, Natalie. From all of us here at EWTN News Nightly, we'd like to send our heartfelt congratulations to you. Way to continue the mission. Well, finally tonight, as we mentioned earlier in the newscast, today is the feast of Pope St. Victor I and Blessed Stanley Rother. Rother was a priest for the then Diocese of Oklahoma City, Tulsa. He was later sent to Guatemala to help minister the people there. When civil war broke out in the country, Father Rother was shot and killed in his rectory by 3 masked men on July 28, 1981. Pope Francis declared him a martyr in 2016, and he was beatified in 2017. Pope Victor I was a native of Africa. He is known for obtaining the release of many Christians who had been deported to Sardinia during the Roman persecutions. The first pope to write in Latin instead of Greek, he is most famous for his efforts to have Easter universally celebrated on the Sunday. Pope Victor I died in the year 199. Pope St. Victor, pray for us. Want to thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Eric Rosales. Have yourself a wonderful night y vaya con Dios.